All right, well, our final guest for this special programming about the New Hampshire Film Festival, which is taking place this weekend, October 14th through 17th, is Ami Horowitz, who is the co-director and co-writer, along with Matthew Groff, of the documentary You and Me. He's coming to us. You're in New York, right, Ami?
I am indeed.
Excellent. This is an interesting story, and I'm going to let Ami tell us, but it's an interesting documentary, and Ami was an investment banker for 13 years prior to making this film. He's written for the National Review and the Weekly Standard. He lives in New York with his wife and children. And so welcome, and thank you for making a little time for us this afternoon, Ami.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Great.
And I'm glad I get to anchor this day.
Yes, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the film and how you got involved with this.
Yeah, sure. You know, as you mentioned before in that little brief bio, I have absolutely no connection to film whatsoever. Prior to this endeavor, I was an investment banker. I saw a lot of movies, but that's about it. And it was one of those moments where you could, the few times in life where you can point to something like this that was really more of an event rather than a process. And it really was one of those rare moments where, that light bulb kind of moment where an epiphany kind of just hits you in the face. And this really was that. And it was Saturday night, and I was sitting at home watching a Michael Moore movie, Bowling for Columbine.
Right.
And I was drifting off for some reason or another and thinking about the UN. For the life of you, I can't tell you why the UN popped into my head, but it didn't, and it really never left. And I was getting really upset and hot and bothered about how the UN was this great idea, which just utterly failed, I think, at its purpose. And I was thinking about Rwanda and Sudan and all these things, and looked back over at the screen and saw this movie and said, God, what a really entertaining, engaging medium if done right. And that was the moment where I said I had to leave a very profitable business and a secure life for my family and go into filmmaking, which is anything but. And I decided to make this movie, and for lack of a better example, a Michael Moore style, sort of an irreverent, darkly humorous style, and the result was You and Me.
How long ago was this, Ami?
This was, it feels like 20 or 30 years ago, but it was only about 4.5 years ago.
Oh, that's not bad.
I say only, believe me,
Right.
4.5 years is a long time.
Well, we're consistently hearing from filmmakers today that these films, they are processes and go from anywhere from 10 to 5 to 4.5 to however many years. And I think that's an interesting point for our listeners who don't have the inside scoop on filmmaking, and that it's a drawn out process. It's not something that generally gets done in a short amount of time.
Yeah, definitely not this. Definitely not a short amount of time.
Right. So,
but not an outrageous amount of time.
Right. So what is this film about? You said you were dissatisfied with the UN and decided to use film as the medium for expressing that dissatisfaction. So tell us, what did you do? What was the process of making this film, and what is the film about?
Again, the film is simply about uncovering the failures of the UN to live up to its founding principles. Right, the idea that out of the ashes of World War II, out of the ashes of the Holocaust, this organization would be a organization to bring countries together to make sure that such events never occur again.
Right.
And unfortunately, the situation has been far, far from that. And this movie documents, in as entertaining a way as I can make it possible, documents those failures, why they have failed. And essentially the process was we traveled around the world, Asia, the Middle East, Africa, Europe, the United States, and we filmed and documented those failures. The vehicle is sort of me, running wild around the world, exposing these failures. And, the result was a 90-minute, what I call docutainment, showing where and when the UN has let us down.
Great.
Essentially, speaking truth to power and holding this massive organization's feet to the fire.
Ami, you got some wonderful interviews with some very, very powerful people, John Bolton, James Woolsey. How did you do that?
Beyond that, by the way, we got, I would say, that stuff was relatively easy. The tougher stuff and the more compelling stuff, I think, is the unprecedented access we got to the UN itself, both to the most senior people in the organization and the physical access we got to their facilities all over the world. Some granted to me, and some we kind of got there in slightly more devious ways.
Yeah, with a little subterfuge, right?
A little subterfuge, sure. It's listen. Where there's a will, there's a way. Let me put it that way. This is a big world, and if you look far and wide enough, and you're aggressive enough, you can get access to all sorts of interesting things.
Sure. Well, that's just definitely a testament to your passion about reaching out and
or my stupidity.
I think passion and skill. Obviously.
Yeah, and that you would feel so strongly about this that you would leave that very secure job and take the risk of making film to share with others and get people talking and asking questions and so forth. Can you give us a couple of the examples of what you consider to be failures of the UN and where you went and what people can expect to see in the film?
Oh, yeah. Starting with, I think, maybe one of their biggest failures is Rwanda. An example of absolute genocide where 800,000 innocents were slaughtered in a country where the UN had a tremendous presence, and the UN simply refused to stop it, and they could have if there was a will within the organization. That genocide did not have to occur, and we show a number of very surprising things, including some financial connections to Rwanda that some people some higher ups, in fact, the highest up at the UN had, and that possibly playing a role in their insistence on not getting involved in Rwanda. When it comes to financial scandals, the UN takes a backseat to nobody. We show really the anatomy of the oil for food scandal and how really that was the greatest scam in the history of the world, and our taxpayer dollars funded that scam. And to issues that we're dealing with today, Darfur being one of them, which is sort of a slow-moving Rwanda, where the UN's refused to get involved, to Iran's pursuit of a nuclear weapon, and the UN looking the other way quite blatantly at this pursuit. I mean, we can go on and on.
Sure, but we'll let people who are in the audience be able to go and discover those themselves. It's certainly a very interesting film, and it's powerful but also entertaining, a la Michael Moore. I've read that Michael lives in the same building you do?
He does, yeah. In fact, we just had an email correspondence a couple of days ago.
Did you?
About it, yeah.
Great. And you used a lot of his crew, his writers, his people who have worked with him.
Editors, writers, cinematographers. Listen, there's no reason why you need to invent the wheel in certain cases. And
I like that.
My model has always been, because clearly, I was lacking in any filmmaking experience. The model was always, let me surround myself with the best people possible.
Great.
And, let's be honest, Michael Moore really is the gold standard when it comes to entertainment-based documentaries. So I figure, hey, why not bring those guys into one team again and make a different kind of film?
You're a smart man.